When are you going to settle down?
Oh,
Kids and marriage.
I would never answer that question.
No, I've seen interesting marriages and I've seen not interesting marriages.
Well, I'm just going to say, you're not getting any younger, Leo, 38.
Well, that's true. That's true.
For over 3 decades, Leonardo DiCaprio has captivated audiences not just with his transformative performances on screen, but with his seemingly perpetual status as one of Tinseltown's most elusive bachelors. At 50 years old, the Oscar-winning actor has amassed a fortune, critical acclaim, and a dating history that reads like a who's who of the world's most beautiful women. Yet marriage remains conspicuously absent from his life story.
When are you going to settle down?
Oh,
Kids and marriage.
I would never answer that question.
Is it on the cards one day?
I'm sure it will be.
This evasive response from a 2013 interview reveals the carefully constructed walls DiCaprio has built around his personal life. But beneath the surface of his diplomatic deflections lies a complex web of psychological, emotional, and lifestyle factors that industry insiders and relationship experts believe may forever keep him from saying, "I do." The seeds of DiCaprio's relationship patterns may have been planted in his earliest years. Born to divorced parents when he was just 1 year old, Leonardo witnessed firsthand the dissolution of marriage at its most fundamental level. This early exposure to marital failure, psychologists suggest, can create deep-seated fears about commitment and the permanence of romantic relationships.
Do you see that for you?
Sure.
You want that?
I think everybody eventually, not everybody, but I think that, eventually when the time is right, absolutely, yeah.
But does married life seem a little boring to you?
Does it seem boring?
A little sedate?
No, I've seen interesting marriages and I've seen not interesting marriages.
His words reveal a man who understands marriage intellectually, but remains emotionally detached from the concept. Industry observers note that DiCaprio's responses about marriage consistently lack the warmth and enthusiasm he displays when discussing his craft or environmental activism, suggesting an internal resistance that goes far deeper than mere bachelor preference. The entertainment industry has long been a breeding ground for arrested development, and DiCaprio's case presents a textbook example of this phenomenon. When Titanic catapulted him to global superstardom at age 23, he was frozen in time as the world's ultimate heartthrob. The psychological impact of achieving such massive success at a young age cannot be understated. It's as if his emotional development was suspended at that pivotal moment when millions of teenage girls around the world fell in love with Jack Dawson.
The truth is that I remember saying as a very young kid, I want to become an actor.
This is a chunk of super soft bubble yum bubble gum.
And that's single-mindedly what he did.
This single-minded focus on his career from childhood created a man whose entire identity became intertwined with his professional success. Reputation manager Eric Schiffer observed that Leo dated 23-year-olds when he became famous, and he's still dating them today. It smacks of emotional immaturity. The pattern suggests a man who never psychologically progressed beyond the age at which he achieved his greatest triumph. Perhaps the most telling aspect of DiCaprio's romantic life is the infamous 25-year rule, a well-documented pattern where he consistently ends relationships as his partners approach or exceed their mid-20s. From Gisele Bündchen to Camilla Morrone, the pattern is so consistent it has become an internet meme, with viral charts tracking his dating history showing no girlfriend older than 25 during their time together.
I'm quite used to that kind of stuff. I didn't find it hard at all.
It doesn't bother you?
Look, we were shooting a major production in Australia, and there wasn't really anything that horrible said.
This casual dismissal of media scrutiny regarding his dating life reveals a man who has become comfortable with his reputation, perhaps even protective of it. Sources close to DiCaprio have revealed that by 25, girls are looking for more. They're looking to get married and settle down. That is not what Leo wants. He does not want a family. This strategic approach to relationships suggests a man who has carefully constructed his romantic life to avoid the very commitments that lead to marriage. The psychology behind this pattern runs deeper than mere preference. Relationship experts suggest that DiCaprio's choice to date younger women who haven't yet reached the age where marriage and children become priorities allows him to experience the emotional benefits of romantic connection without confronting his own commitment issues. It's a sophisticated form of emotional self-preservation that ensures he never has to face the uncomfortable reality of his own relationship fears. When we examine DiCaprio's recent statements about aging and relationships, a fascinating contradiction emerges. In a 2025 interview, he claimed to feel emotionally 32 inches despite being 50, and emphasized that turning 50 creates a feeling like you have a desire to just be more honest and not waste your time. You have to risk being honest and having things fall apart because there's no time to waste.
Your friends all say that you're very normal. Is that true? Well, once again, normal's relative.
That's up to interpretation as well, isn't it? I'm sure some people would look at me in my life and say it's not normal, and other people might say It is.
This self-awareness about his unconventional lifestyle choices suggests a man who has made peace with being different, perhaps even proud of it. Yet the emphasis on honesty and not wasting time seems to contradict his pattern of engaging in relationships that, by their very nature, have built-in expiration dates. The environmental activist in DiCaprio presents another fascinating contradiction to his romantic life. As a UN messenger of peace on climate change since 2014, he has dedicated enormous energy to preserving the planet for future generations. Yet he shows no apparent interest in creating his own legacy through family. This disconnect between his public persona as someone deeply concerned about the future and his private reluctance to invest in personal future commitments reveals the complex psychology of a man at war with himself. His passion for environmental causes demonstrates his capacity for deep commitment and long-term thinking, qualities that would seem to translate naturally to romantic relationships. Yet sources indicate he doesn't see himself ever getting married and doesn't feel the need to tie the knot to make things official, suggesting a fundamental disconnect between his public and private emotional investments. The influence of DiCaprio's inner circle cannot be understated in understanding his relationship patterns. His tight group of friends, including Tobey Maguire, has remained unchanged since his youth, creating an insulated environment where his bachelor lifestyle is not only accepted, but celebrated. This emotional ecosystem reinforces his choices and provides no pressure for change. This loyalty to childhood friendships, while admirable, may also contribute to his emotional stagnation. Surrounded by people who knew him before his fame and who benefit from his continued bachelor status, DiCaprio exists in a bubble where growth and change are neither expected nor encouraged. The financial aspects of DiCaprio's reluctance to marry cannot be ignored. With films grossing over $7.2 billion worldwide, he has accumulated enormous wealth that would be subject to division in any potential divorce. The specter of prenuptial agreements, custody battles, and financial settlements may serve as additional deterrents to a man who has watched countless Hollywood marriages crumble under the weight of legal complications. Industry insiders suggest that DiCaprio has observed the messy divorces of his peers and concluded that the financial and emotional costs of marriage far outweigh the benefits. This calculated approach to relationships, while pragmatic, reveals a man who views romantic commitment through the lens of potential loss rather than possible gain. This playful deflection of questions about his character reveals a man comfortable with ambiguity and resistant to being pinned down by societal expectations. The same quality that makes him a compelling actor, his ability to inhabit different roles without committing fully to any single identity, may be the very thing that prevents him from committing to marriage. The recent emergence of his relationship with 26-year-old Vittoria Soretti has sparked speculation about whether DiCaprio might finally be ready to break his patterns. Described as exclusive and serious, this relationship represents his first with a woman over 25 in years. However, sources close to the situation emphasize that marriage remains off the table, suggesting that age may be less relevant than his fundamental resistance to commitment. The public's fascination with DiCaprio's love life has reached such heights that his dating patterns have become fodder for memes and social media commentary, with some defending his choices as personal freedom, while others criticize them as emotionally immature. Reddit discussions often focus on the perceived unfairness of his age preferences, while Quora debates center on whether his patterns reflect deeper psychological issues. This statement about his acting career reveals DiCaprio's philosophy of life, a man who understands that he cannot control how others perceive him, only how he chooses to live. Applied to his romantic life, this suggests a man who has made peace with public scrutiny of his choices and remains committed to living according to his own internal compass, regardless of societal expectations. The comparison between DiCaprio's public and private commitments reveals a stark contrast that may hold the key to understanding his marriage avoidance. While he has demonstrated unwavering dedication to his craft, his environmental causes, and his friendships, romantic relationships remain the one area where he consistently chooses temporary over permanent arrangements. His passion for giving voice to the voiceless in environmental matters contrasts sharply with his silence on his own emotional needs and desires. This disconnect suggests a man more comfortable advocating for external causes than examining his own internal landscape. The entertainment industry's unique pressures and temptations may also play a crucial role in DiCaprio's relationship patterns. Surrounded by constant opportunities and never-ending choices, he exists in an environment that actively works against the stability and routine that successful marriages require. The same lifestyle that fuels his creativity and maintains his mystique may be fundamentally incompatible with the compromises necessary for long-term partnership. Furthermore, DiCaprio's perfectionist nature, evident in his meticulous approach to character preparation and his environmental activism, may extend to his romantic expectations in ways that make real-world relationships unsustainable. The search for an idealized partner who meets impossible standards becomes a convenient excuse for avoiding the messy realities of actual commitment. This acceptance of powerlessness in professional contexts stands in sharp contrast to his apparent need for complete control in personal relationships. The vulnerability required required for marriage. The willingness to be emotionally powerless with another person seems to terrify a man who has built his entire identity around maintaining control over his image and choices. The role of his mother, Irmeline, in shaping his views on relationships cannot be overlooked. As a single mother who raised him after his parents' divorce, she provided both strength and independence as role models, but perhaps also inadvertently demonstrated that traditional family structures were unnecessary for success and happiness. This early modeling may have contributed to his comfort with non-traditional relationship arrangements. Recent psychological research on celebrity culture suggests that the constant attention and adoration DiCaprio receives from fans worldwide may fulfill many of the emotional needs that typically drive people toward marriage. The validation, admiration, and sense of being desired that come from millions of fans may make the more intimate, but necessarily more challenging validation of a spouse seem less appealing by comparison. The financial independence that comes with DiCaprio's success also removes many of the practical motivations for marriage that drive ordinary people toward commitment. Without the need for financial security, shared resources, or combined social status, marriage becomes purely about emotional connection, an area where DiCaprio appears to have significant barriers. This metaphor about cooking reveals DiCaprio's understanding that meaningful things require time and effort, yet his romantic history suggests an unwillingness to invest that same patience and dedication in relationships. The contradiction between his intellectual understanding of what creates quality and his behavioral patterns in love highlights the complex psychology at work. Industry observers note that DiCaprio's careful cultivation of his public image as a serious actor and environmental activist may be incompatible with the messiness and unpredictability that come with marriage and family life. The control required to maintain his carefully crafted persona may extend to his personal relationships in ways that make genuine intimacy impossible. The temporal aspect of DiCaprio's career choices also reflects his approach to relationships. Just as he chooses film projects that allow him to inhabit different characters temporarily, his romantic relationships follow a similar pattern of intense engagement followed by strategic withdrawal. This suggests a man who prefers the excitement of new experiences over the deeper satisfaction of sustained commitment. His willingness to put himself in physical danger for his environmental work contrasts sharply with his apparent unwillingness to put himself in emotional danger for love. This suggests that the fears governing his romantic life run deeper than simple risk aversion. They represent fundamental anxieties about emotional vulnerability and loss of control. The impact of social media and modern dating culture cannot be ignored in understanding DiCaprio's choices. In an era where endless options are always available and where new potential partners are constantly being introduced through his social and professional circles, the incentive to settle down with one person may seem less compelling than it would have in previous generations. Moreover, the changing nature of relationships in Hollywood, where marriage rates have declined and alternative relationship structures have become more accepted, may have removed much of the social pressure that traditionally pushed people toward matrimony. DiCaprio exists in a cultural bubble where his choices are not only accepted but often envied. The psychological concept of fear of missing out may also play a crucial role in DiCaprio's relationship patterns. With access to some of the world's most beautiful and accomplished women, the possibility that someone even more compatible might be waiting just around the corner could make commitment feel like a limitation rather than a fulfillment. Insert clip from 304 to 324. It was in the cage with me. Yeah, how did you survive that? I don't know. Then you're making it up. No, I'm not. They actually said in 30 years this has never happened, but the tuna kind of got stuck on the top of the cage and the great white leapt out and tried to bite it, and it went into the cage with me and half of its body was in and out, and I flattened down at the bottom, and it was this far away, and it chomped a few times. Leonardo DiCaprio's shark survival story. This harrowing experience reveals DiCaprio's survival instincts and his ability to remain calm under extreme pressure. Applied to his romantic life, these same survival instincts may kick in when relationships become too serious, causing him to metaphorically flatten down and wait for the threat of commitment to pass. The generational aspect of DiCaprio's choices also deserves consideration. As someone who came of age during the height of bachelor culture in the 1990s and 2000s, he may represent a particular moment in cultural history when extended bachelorhood became not just acceptable, but aspirational for successful men. His choices may also reflect broader changes in how successful people view relationships and family formation. In an era of increased life expectancy and extended careers, the traditional timeline of marriage and children by one's 30s may seem unnecessarily rushed to someone with DiCaprio's resources and opportunities. The question of whether DiCaprio will ever marry ultimately comes down to whether he can overcome the complex web of psychological, emotional, and practical factors that have shaped his relationship patterns for 3 decades. Recent interviews suggesting he feels emotionally 32 inches, despite being 50, suggest a man who may be psychologically frozen at an age when marriage and family seemed like distant, unnecessary commitments. Yet the same qualities that make him an extraordinary actor, his ability to transform, his willingness to take on challenging roles, his dedication to his craft could theoretically be applied to personal growth and relationship development. The question is whether he has the motivation and self-awareness necessary to undertake such a transformation. This humility about his professional achievements stands in stark contrast to what appears to be an inflexible certainty about his personal choices. The same man who approaches his craft with openness and continuous learning seems to have closed himself off to growth in his romantic life. As DiCaprio enters his 6th decade, the window for traditional family formation continues to narrow, making the psychological barriers to marriage even more relevant. With current girlfriend Vittoria Soretti representing his first serious relationship with a woman over 25 in years, this may be his last realistic opportunity to break the patterns that have defined his romantic life. The ultimate irony of Leonardo DiCaprio's relationship history is that a man capable of such emotional depth in his performances, such passionate commitment to environmental causes, and such loyalty to his friendships appears unable or unwilling to apply these same qualities to romantic love. Whether this represents a conscious choice, unconscious self-protection, or simple emotional immaturity may never be fully understood by the public. What remains clear is that after 50 years of life and 30 years of fame, DiCaprio has created a romantic pattern so consistent and deeply entrenched that changing it would require not just meeting the right person, but fundamentally restructuring his entire approach to love, commitment, and vulnerability. For a man who has spent decades carefully controlling every aspect of his public image and personal life, such a transformation may represent the greatest role he'll never be willing to play. The evidence suggests that Leonardo DiCaprio's resistance to marriage stems not from a single factor, but from a complex constellation of psychological, practical, and cultural influences that have reinforced each other over decades. From his parents' early divorce to his arrested development following Titanic, from his carefully curated social circle to his pattern of age-specific dating, every element of his personal history seems to conspire against the kind of emotional vulnerability that successful marriage requires. In the end, the question may not be whether Leonardo DiCaprio will ever marry, but whether he even wants to. For a man who has achieved virtually everything else he has set his mind to, his continued bachelorhood may represent not a failure, but the ultimate expression of personal choice and self-determination. In a world that constantly pressures public figures to conform to traditional expectations, DiCaprio's romantic independence may be his most radical and authentic act. Whether this represents wisdom or emotional cowardice, fulfillment or tragedy remains a matter of perspective. What cannot be disputed is that at 50, Leonardo DiCaprio has crafted a life entirely on his own terms, and those terms, apparently, do not include the altar.